everyone, welcome to Health Caring Mom. My name is Regina and I'm in my kitchen today. Welcome. And today I'm going to talk to you about food. I've already talked to you about what an autoimmune disease was, I briefly got into it, and also steps to healing and getting yourself well prepared and more knowledgeable for when you do seek a doctor, and just kind of have a little bit more information of what's going on with your body. So that brings us to food. Now, before I dive in as to what I'm doing, I have to say that it was a little overwhelming when I was told that I needed to be on a gluten-free, dairy-free diet. And as you research, you will find out that that is the recommendation from all functional medicine doctors, is that once you have an autoimmune disease, anyone, celiac, ulcerative colitis, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, it is just recommended across all the boards that you have to take out gluten and dairy. And that was probably the hardest thing for me to do, as well as my family. But with help of some cookbooks, which I'm going to share with you in a few minutes on what helps me. Now, I grew up, I'm a Hispanic household. I was born in Argentina, so I grew up with empanadas, milanesas, of course steak, and different sauces, and pasta. Pasta was very big in my family. A lot of people from Argentina came from Italy, so pasta is just kind of there, and salami and cheese and bread was kind of our appetizers daily, as preparing dinner was, you kind of like nibble on that stuff. So my point is that if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I know that's so cliche, but my mom has celiac, and she did not limit us to gluten. She cooked for herself her meals, and back then there was no such thing as gluten-free. She just knew she couldn't eat gluten, and she just stuck to meat, potatoes, and rice, and that sort of thing. But we were always just a traditional standard American diet, which you will come to realize that term very well once you start reading into the different diets. So I strictly follow now a paleo diet, which means no gluten and no soy, no artificial sweeteners, no dairy. My kids eat dairy, and I make sure it's organic. And the produce that I buy, everything is organic. And in a few episodes, I will talk to you about what my grocery haul looks like. But for now, I'm going to talk to you about what you can eat, because that was also what was very sad to me, was everyone was telling me, okay, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I was left with, oh my gosh, well, what can I eat? I didn't know where to start. So I was very used to buying prepackaged foods. So like those little rice-a-roni packs. And this is because I was a new mom, and I was cooking, but I wasn't cooking from scratch. And I think that's where the hard part gets for people, is you're so used to buying, the box of macaroni and cheese, let's say, right? You made it, okay, it's homemade, but you really don't know what's in the ingredients until you start reading. And that's where the scary part again comes in, because you see, all these fillers and added, additives that just, wreak havoc on your body. So one example I want to give you is why gluten, as an example, is not tolerated, is because it's a triggering food. So when that happens, so you consume gluten, it goes down into your intestines, and it actually forms gaps in the intestines, and that food goes out into the bloodstream, and it signals an autoimmune response. So that is also, another term for that is called leaky gut, or intestinal permeability. And that happens over and over and over again. That's why an autoimmune disease can take so long to manifest, because it's years of stress, years of these triggering foods like gluten, dairy, soy, caffeine, alcohol even, and sugar. I mean, sugar is in every single thing. It's in bread. It's in crackers that you buy. Not even talking about the sweets and cupcakes and muffins, but a lot of people don't realize that sugar is just another inflammatory food. In my case, gluten and dairy were my triggering foods. I did a food sensitivity test, and that's what came up on that. So I've just learned to stay away from it, and I have to say, knowing when you have a flare-up, like my flare-ups would mostly be GI issues, discomfort, bloating, gas, diarrhea, or going the other way, constipation was very common and unsettling. And when you feel bad and when you start to be mindful of what your body can tolerate is when you've made that connection. And that's the most important thing that you can do for yourself, is just realize what you can eat. So my first book that I'm going to talk about is this cookbook. It's called Weelicious Lunches. It's by Catherine McCord. She's super adorable. This was the first cookbook I used because I was not used to, and now it's not gluten-free, but if you're trying to kind of implement that way of making things from scratch and you want to get your kids involved, this is a great book. I mean, she has tons of recipes and strategies for picky eaters. I know a lot of kids nowadays are very picky. And I've found that with my kids, if I get them involved in the kitchen, they'll eat and they'll ask questions. And where does this come from? And how did you make this? And it's a lot easier and it's not a struggle anymore. I have to say I am thankful and blessed in that situation. But she has great recipes and they're not tedious. And she's got lunch, dinner. I actually make a granola bar recipe from here that I've translated into gluten-free and dairy-free, and just kind of substituted a few of the ingredients. So I'll be sharing that in later episodes. But this, from Elena's Pantry, it's called Paleo Cooking, was the first book that I got, and my sister gave it to me. And I don't know how it came up, but I think it was my birthday, and she gave this to me. And I liked some of the recipes from here. Some of them I didn't care for. Some of them I didn't need, like some chicken, beef with broccoli. There's some basics in there, but if you don't know really where to start with the paleo side, this is a great book to start with. So I'll show that again. And then my all-time favorite, and this was my second cookbook, is Against All Grain by Danielle Walker. So if you're following me on Facebook, you know that I just absolutely adore her. I have 3 of her cookbooks. I think this was her first one. So this, and you can see the pages are ripped out. I've used it so much. And she has everything from breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, everything in between, and true paleo. Her recipes, some of them can be tedious, but you'll see that once you don't incorporate gluten in your diet, you really do need to take the time to make things from scratch. And trust me, I know that's hard. I have 3 kids, and I pretty much cook 1 or 2 things every single day, and I batch cook. So I really try to maximize my time in the kitchen. And she actually gives you a lot of, she calls them tidbits in the cookbook on how to freeze them. And, I just double things. Like when I make her waffles, I double them. Because being a family of 5, if I get 6 waffles out of 1 batch, I mean, that doesn't last me very long. So I always double. I almost triple things sometimes too. So her next book, this came out several years ago. It's called Celebrations. And this has all the holidays. So like Mother's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, and she has from a cocktail to dessert. So, which is just amazing. Last year was my first Thanksgiving hosting a paleo Thanksgiving, I used everything from her Thanksgiving section, and it was just amazing, delicious. Everybody ate it. I have family members who are not gluten-free and just couldn't believe it. So getting into that, I'm sure not everyone has family members that are, gluten-free, and it's hard. It's hard. A lot of people think gluten-free and they're like, oh, it's going to taste stale and there's going to be no taste and it's going to be hard as a rock. And that's the thing with paleo cooking, is it really goes back years. So it's almost like what our grandparents made, with broth, homemade broth, using all parts of the bones. I'll be sharing a recipe on how I make my chicken broth that I sip on, and that actually helps kind of heal me when I have a flare-up or when I feel like I'm just a little stressed and I can feel my kind of anxiety and nerves, kicking into gear. I'll make a batch of broth, or I usually keep some jars in the freezer, and even the kids ask for it every once in a while, especially when they're getting sick or coming down with something. But anyhow, it really isn't. A lot of, I don't know, for whatever reason, people hear gluten-free and they're like, oh, that's going to be disgusting. But, this cookbook is just amazing. And it's just one of those you keep in your arsenal. Now, her newest book is Eat What You Love. And this just came out this past December. And this, she has snacks, lunches for kids. She has a meal plan on how, to figure out your ingredients and your shopping. She has crab cakes in here. She actually has Pop-Tarts that we've made, and they're pizza pockets. They are just, actually was going to try this recipe and make empanadas with it and see how they held up. But like I said, it's tedious. It is a lot of work, but when you're doing something good for you or your family, it's not work. And you just have to set time out, just like you would set time out for exercising and, taking the kids to their after school, sports or activities. You just need to carve out that time. And like my time is Sundays. Sundays are, I batch cook. The Instant Pot is my best friend. I use that, almost every single day. And I'll batch cook vegetables in there to steam them. I buy a lot of things from Costco. Costco has a lot of frozen vegetables that are organic that help kind of, do some extra veggies. And that's one thing that I didn't grow up with, was eating a lot of vegetables. I had a salad every day because my mom would always make a salad with dinner. But that just consisted of, lettuce and tomato and, oil and vinegar. It was very plain. And, I never ate sweet potatoes. I, learned to love sweet potatoes. And so you'd be surprised. But it's just steps. You have to first find out what you have, get a clear diagnosis. Or even if you think you have something, just eliminate. I would say, dairy would probably be the easiest. A lot of people can't eliminate caffeine right away. Just see how your body does. And that's actually one of the things I did with the functional medicine doctor. It was called an elimination diet. And they have you take foods away for so many weeks and then you put them back in. Now, when you're in this state of duress, really, of your body, everything you eat is going to give you a reaction. So like I had some sensitivities to gluten and dairy, but I also couldn't tolerate nightshades. Nightshades are like eggplant, peppers, onions, tomatoes, which those are my absolute favorite foods to eat. And now I can pretty much eat them every day. But in the beginning, eggs, I would get such migraines with eggs because of the sulfites. So it was a lot. It was a lot of information. But as you start digging in and finding ways to make you feel better, because if you don't feel better, you can't provide for your family. You can't, be there with a smile on your face when you're exhausted and you're hurting and you just want to crawl in bed and lay there. So that is my video for today. And if you have any comments or suggestions or questions about these authors or the books that I've used, please message me and let me know. I'm happy to help, and I hope you have a great day, and thank you so much for watching this video. Next time I will be talking about home cleaners, so you know, like your sprays and your floor cleaning products, because that is the next phase, is taking out the toxins from the household, which I totally was so bad at. I mean, I didn't even realize how many harmful ingredients were in, you know, all the chemicals that are around you inside your house where you think it's safe. And I just was oblivious and, you know, lighted candles every day. But I'll go into that next time into further detail. So as for now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope this helps you, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Bye.